Hi. In this video we're going to set up a TwinCAT project that will allow communications to one or more Control Techniques drives on an EtherCAT network over AoE, which stands for ADS over EtherCAT. Once the AoE network is configured and running, Control Techniques Connect software can then be used to configure the drives on the EtherCAT network using the EtherCAT Master's ADS network ID. So for this particular setup, we've got a laptop, we've got a Beckhoff IPC, so this is a C6025 IPC. I've configured LAN 1 for Ethernet, and then I've got a Cat6 Ethernet cable connecting my laptop all the way through to the IPC. I've then got LAN 2 configured as an EtherCAT port so that the IPC can then control our drive over EtherCAT. And then at the other end of that EtherCAT connection, I've got an SI EtherCAT interface, which is plugged into Unidrive M700. Now we do have some other drives which actually feature an EtherCAT interface by default, so that's Digitex HD M753. The setup for it is identical, it uses the same sort of steps to follow, just a slightly different ESI file when you're running in the TwinCAT environment. So speaking of ESI files, obviously, if you want to be able to scan and search the network in the TwinCAT environment, the TwinCAT environment needs the ESI file that describes the interface that it's trying to connect to. That's kind of the purpose of the ESI files. So, you know, regardless of which drive you're trying to connect to, the ESI file pack contains descriptions for all of our drives that you might wanting to be connecting to inside of a TwinCAT project. Okay, but where to get those ESI files and how to install them is covered in detail by another video in the series, and also by the manual, which is linked in the description. Okay, we'll be covering it very briefly just to get you started, but the full process will be covered in a later video. So let's have a look. So in terms of ESI files, okay, there are a couple of different locations that you want to look at. Because I'm using the slightly older version of the TwinCAT XAE shell, my files are stored in C, so root of your hard drive, TwinCAT 3.1, config, IO, and then EtherCAT. Okay, so in this folder you can see all of these .xml files. These are the ESI descriptors for EtherCAT, so it knows about all of the Beckhoff devices off the bat, and we need to go and add the Control Techniques devices to this list. Okay, so ahead of time I've already downloaded the latest ESI files from the website, and I've already extracted them from the zip file. So if we go into the zip file, what we can see is that we have two sets of files. One's for OMRON PLCs and one set that are standard. So for TwinCAT you just need the standard ones, and you can see here are all the .xml files for all of the products, and you can see here's the Control Techniques Unidrive M700 XML file. Now if I wanted to, for this particular project, I could just install this one, but to be honest with you, it just makes more sense just to include the whole lot. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've selected Control A to select them all. I'm going to go and drag them and drop them into this project, and there we go. You can see all the files are now in the TwinCAT folder, and we're ready to go. So I'll just close that and close that. Now I'm going to go and open the TwinCAT environment. So here we go. Just wait for this to open up, and there we go. So I'm going to start a brand new project. I'm going to call this Get Going TwinCAT, and I'm going to copy this name because I want to go and use that later when we're naming the PLC part of the project. So there we go. Let's click OK. And there we have it. This is the basic project with all of the things that come in by default when you make a new project. So generally, I think most people do this. You go and clear up the project of all of the things that you don't really want in there because they're not relevant to your project. So I'm going to go and do that. So I'm going to hide safety, I'm going to hide C++, I'm going to hide Vision, I'm going to hide Analytics, and there we go. So the first thing that we want to do is actually connect our TwinCAT project to the target. Now, if your PC has actually been connected to your particular, target IPC, PLC, whatever type of controller it is that you're connecting to, it will just appear in this list. But just as an aside, if you haven't ever connected to it before, but you know that you've gone and set up like a static IP address or something like that for the Ethernet port, you would click here and then you would go search Ethernet, and then you could either click broadcast search, or in some cases, as I've found, you can do the broadcast search, you won't necessarily find your target. If it hasn't found your target after that, and you know that your IP address right, it's in the correct subnet, and you've given it a unique overall IP address, it's always worth typing in the direct IP address here and hitting enter, because that will do a direct search of that IP address. Okay, so that's how I ultimately ended up connecting my particular IPC. So I'm just going to select OK. There we go. As you can see, it knows about mine. I'm just going to take this offline so that we can begin to configure. There we go, try again. So first thing that we want to do, now that we've established this connection, if you fail to do this connection, it will probably spend about 2 minutes searching and then fail. So it's definitely worth getting this done up front. I'm going to right click on devices, I'm going to click scan. Click OK to this message. And there we go. It's found the interface that we're going to be using. So just click OK on that, and then it will automatically prompt you scan for boxes. So what this means is it's going to go and try to hunt for any devices that are attached to this particular EtherCAT interface, which will be our drive. So I'm going to say yes. There we go, and you can see there's our drive. There's a little icon, shows the keypad of the Unidrive M700, and it gives you a name as well, the Unidrive M700, so you can be completely sure that it's actually gone and found our target. So the next thing that will happen is it will automatically offer you the choice between, do you want to add to the TwinCAT project's axis pool an NC axis or a CNC axis? For this particular set of videos, we're not looking at CNC applications, we're looking at the sort of simpler end of the spectrum, sort of 1 and 1.5 axis applications. So we're interested in it becoming an NC axis. So I'm going to click OK to that. So yes to free run, and there we go. So what you can see in the motion folder, let's say, you can see that we've now got axis 1 and drive 1. Okay, all of this now should be sufficient to get ADS communications working. So at this point, I'm going to click activate configuration, click OK to all the following messages, and then eventually this icon here, you see it's got a little box around it telling you that it's now actually online. And crucially what's happened is all these configurations that we've made in offline mode have now been applied. So this means that the AoE and ADS communications are actually functioning. Okay, so the next thing that we're interested in is the ADS address. So if we go double click on device, click EtherCAT, and then you'll find this box here that says net ID. So this is the ADS master address, and I can just copy that guy and I can paste it into the Control Techniques Connect software in the next step. So there we have it. That's all of the steps required just to get ADS communications working. You'll note that we didn't need to get any PLC code written or anything like that in order to get it going, so it's actually quite a simple setup really. In the next video we're going to look how to use that address that we copied just now, and then connect to our drives using Control Techniques Connect software to configure the drive.